Holy shit!
Sorry about that, gentlemen. That was my other intro.
That intro.
We are a lot.
That intro's what? Shirtless?
That intro is fire, Alan. We need one for Jewcast like that.
I'm working on it, actually. I'm working on it. It's going to be very different, though. So, and I promise I won't mention any ovens or anything. So,
I'm Yisrael Chai and dancing Jews and stuff like that.
Yeah, the dancing Jews. The people coming out of the wall.
Oh, my buddies.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to another Jewcast. Me and Alan Roberts once again. Our special guest host Louis Shanker back again, and our guest for today, Owen Shroyer. Welcome to Jewcast.
Glad to be back. Glad to see you. You've been absent. You've been missed on the X frequencies.
Thank you for saying that. You're one of the few people that really stood up, and a lot of people know me on the right wing, like inside baseball. I get to be a little controversial sometimes because I don't hold back at all ever. And but Owen said free Andrew. Oh yeah, people that don't know, I'm banned on Twitter right now.
Hopefully digitally exterminated.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm coming back. Jack Posobiec tweeted for me to come back. Laura Loomer, Owen Shroyer, Alex Jones. A lot of people said that, free Andrew Meyer, but no action yet. So if you're watching this, tell Elon, bring back Andrew Meyer. We'll get into that maybe a little bit later. I don't want to focus on me being banned, although it does suck. It really does suck. But we got Owen Shroyer here, and right off the bat, all the gold always happens in the pregame. Owen saw Louis. How long ago do you guys go back?
I was heavily promoting Shiva Ayadu Ray. I think I actually had a relationship with Shiva before he ran against Elizabeth Warren. He was one of the most vocal voices for Trump before it was cool. He was really pushing, I think he was pushing the Indians for Trump movement in 2016, if I recall correctly. So I was doing a little outreach with him on that. We formed a nice little relationship, got along, and then he ran against Elizabeth Warren. They rigged that entire deal against him. So I went down there with Louis, and we kind of ruffled some feathers when they were rigging it against Shiva. And then
I remember a Periscope. You were going into like a bar or something. They wouldn't let you in.
I'll explain that, a little bit of context. So in the Shiva campaign, I think I was 19 at the time. I was a college student, and I had seen Shiva because he made this very viral video explaining when Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accords, how the entire system was a scam to take control away from the US and give it to the globalists. And so when I saw he was running for Congress, I reached out, and he consistently polled at 14.9%. And in 2018, the state of Massachusetts made an arbitrary decision not to allow any independent candidates on unless they reached a 15% threshold. Now, keep in mind, Shiva was the first candidate to run for Senate and get the 10,000 certified signatures required to appear on the ballot and not as a write-in in 50 years in Massachusetts. So they announced that he would not be allowed to participate in the 3 debates between Jeff Deal, a faker who, honestly, he doesn't even have the confidence to get his wife to take his last name, and Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, the fake Indian. And they announced that these 3 debates, the first one would be held in a news studio in Boston. The second one will be held in my backyard of Springfield, Massachusetts. And the third one, again, in a news studio in Boston. Now, only the second debate had tickets available to the public. And I scoured for weeks trying to find out what the deal was with the tickets. Eventually, it was printed in the local newspaper that tickets would be available to the public on this Sunday, starting first come, first serve, 55 tickets to the public. So I went to the homeless encampment in Springfield with Dunkin' Donuts, and we all walked over to the newspaper. When they opened up, we got every single ticket.
Wow.
So we filled the entire debate we were going to have, all of Shiva's supporters, and Shiva sit in the audience. And there was a huge scuffle with the Deal campaign, working with Elizabeth Warren, pointing out Shiva's volunteers. Owen flew in. We had Michael, the Blacks for Trump guy there, and about 15 of us get led into the debate. Shiva's kept out, Owen's kept out, Michael's kept out. The police get very aggressive. And it was like an amazing way that the event unfolded. And then we had like a celebration at an Italian place afterwards, and Owen and Harrison were there.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was what was the craziest part about it. It was like there was nobody there for Deal or Warren, literally nobody. And we had hundreds of people out there and they weren't letting us in. And we ended up surrounding the building, and the police were kind of used as like a buffer. I don't know how wittingly they were, but they did their job and they kind of kept us away from the building. And then, you know, they blocked Shiva from going in. And it was one of those deals where in politics, you know, the establishment will never let the anti-establishment win the day. And so even when you put in the right effort to win the narrative, or even just have a victory in a single moment, like that we had that night, they'll do everything to stop it. I think at one point they were like, there were cameras outside. And at one point, I think they were like, hey, no more cameras outside, because it showed how Shiva had all the supporters and there was nobody else. So they were like, hey, turn all these cameras off.
Wow.
Because there's nobody else here but Shiva supporters. That was like, it's crazy. That was like ancient history now.
Yeah, deep lore, deep lore.
Anything that happened like 6 years ago, it feels like a million years ago.
Yes,
So much has happened.
And I guess this is kind of what we're seeing right now in like the MAGA online sphere. And I'd like to hear Owen talk a little bit about it. Is like you have all these new players that weren't around in 2016, weren't around during the first administration, were nowhere to be seen during the period between November the 7th, 2020 and January the 6th, 2021. And now, like 2023, they come onto the stage, they promote DeSantis, Trump wins in like a miraculous comeback, survives an assassination attempt. And these people want to come and say like, Owen, you're not MAGA because you have a disagreement on this policy relating to a country halfway around the world. Andrew, you're not MAGA because you have a big nose. Alan, you're not MAGA because you don't care who someone sleeps with. And like, it's crazy. And it drives us all crazy.
You know, let me put it into plain words. The issue that's dividing the right is obviously the issue of Israel and America's foreign policy. And I think that when you talk about these Johnny-come-latelys, these sunshine patriots, the people that decided to support Trump after it became popular, there's something they don't understand about the original Trump supporters and the original base, because they weren't there. They didn't have to go through what we went through. And I'm noticing that even people that were there with me in 2015 and 2016 that might have a different opinion on Israel. They might be very pro-Israel. They might like our foreign policy in the Middle East, whereas I have a disagreement. I've noticed that even those voices, we still can move forward amicably. We can still go into the huddle and call a play and execute a play for the American first agenda, even if we do have a disagreement on the foreign policy. But it's all of these people that have popped up since 2020 all of a sudden that are now deciding that they get to dictate what's MAGA, and they get to dictate access into the new MAGA establishment. And they're the ones that seem to take these things personally and draw these hard lines on foreign policy, where people that I have a disagreement with on foreign policy that were there before 2020, we have a disagreement on that. And we say, hey, we have a disagreement, good game, and we can still move forward. So there seems to be, but if you go back to 2015 and 2016, it's really just the same song and dance. The same people that are gatekeeping MAGA now were the same voices that tried to stop Trump from winning in 2015 and 2016. And you know, the internet is forever. You can go back and you can look at the National Review story where the biggest names on the right, like Mark Levin and Dana Lash and Ben Shapiro, and I don't remember who all signed off on that National Review story, but it was conservatives against Trump. It was a huge right-wing deal at the time. It was like their last push. It was like the establishment conservatives at that point. It was their last push to try to stop Trump from winning the primary. And ultimately, obviously, Trump won. And now all of them love Trump. But what they seem to forget is that we already went through all of this. We already had to deal with the establishment right in 2015 and 2016, and the anti-establishment right won. We won. We got Trump in. Trump is our guy. He's not your guy. He's our guy. You guys decided to join the team after we won. And so it's kind of creating this rub that I think goes beyond the foreign policy dispute, and it becomes this battle for territory, and it becomes this personal battle now, where I think you have a lot of people that are desperate in politics. They're desperate because they lack self-confidence. They're desperate because they lack self-awareness, and they're scared that if they don't make all the right moves, that whatever territory they have in right-wing politics or in politics in general, they're going to lose it. So that's why, in my mind, that's why they're behaving so erratically and in such extreme ways right now. It's out of fear. I think it's out of fear, and it's out of desperation because they're losing again. In my mind, I think they're losing again, just like they did in 2015 and 2016, and they're afraid what might happen if they lose again, because everything seems to have a higher cost now. Everything in politics seems to only get more expensive, and I don't mean dollar amounts, maybe that too. But I mean in personal investment. I mean in personal risk. Everything seems to be a little more expensive now than it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But we already went there. We already paid the price. And so that seems to be what they forget, is that we already went through this in 2015 and 2016. And then my frustration with the right now, and where the larger movement is, it's like, dang, guys, did we just hit the reset button on this game? It's like we just played, when you used to play the old Nintendo games, there was no memory card. You had to play the game to completion. You couldn't save your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on level 30. You had to either play the game till it was done, or you hit the reset button and you're on level 0 again. And so it feels like, in a lot of ways, I wouldn't say we've gone back to level 0, but it feels like in a lot of ways we've kind of gone back. It feels like we've gone back a lot of levels. And, the right-wing movement has kind of gone back to establishment conservative politics instead of kind of the right-wing dissidents that got Trump over the finish line.
I was joking before we went live about Brillin Hollyhand, the kid that I guess he wants to be the next Charlie Kirk or whatever.
Or somebody wants him to be. Who knows who knows what desires he had in all of this.
Right. But like his politics are like pre-Trump, Romney era, McCain era, like whatever it was that he was saying. It's like, did you miss the whole MAGA movement that happened? And it's like there's this push to try and erase the MAGA movement from people like Mark Levin, who's like claims to be MAGA, but he was never a Trump guy. I pulled up this cover, by the way, against Trump.
Oh, you got it. There it is right there. Yeah.
I pulled it up. First name on the list actually is Glenn Beck. I forgot about
it. Yes. Now, to Glenn Beck's credit, I will give Glenn Beck credit. He did apologize. He did come out and do kind of an apology tour saying he got things wrong. I didn't see anybody else do that, but I will give Beck credit. He did do that.
I'll never forget him dunking his face into a bowl of crushed up Cheetos. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But Meghan McCain's husband, Ben Dominic, is on this list. Dana Lash, like you named, Katie Pavlich. So, yeah, these people were completely against Trump. And like you said, Owen, like we went hard in the paint and we won. It's like I don't like to see outsiders, people that just got here, dictating to us what's going on now. And I spent a lot of time on Twitter Spaces before I got banned recently. Actually, that's part of why I got banned, is communists on that space. I can't. One this chick calls herself a MAGA communist. Like she praised it, MAGA communism.
Who's that?
Geopolitics. The DD is for Donbass Devushka. She used to pretend to be a Russian Jew. And she praised MAGA communism. She wrote America is evil. And like she was trying to infiltrate the right, pose as one of us, and then move us to these crazy positions. And when I talked about her being a communist.
Well, so Andrew, you're bringing up an interesting point. And to bring it at like a more general level with what you're saying, Owen, which is absolutely correct, that the same people who oppose Trump every step of the way are now trying to oppose his base. And as Trump said in his inaugural address, when he took office in 2017, the time for empty promises has passed. Now arrives the hour of action. So going off of what Andrew's saying, I feel like one of the biggest challenges in the MAGA movement, wresting control away from the gatekeepers, from the establishment that want to go back to 2012, is these elements that are coming in and just torpedoing our momentum at every critical juncture. Like within an hour of Charlie Kirk's brutal assassination, you have some of the most prominent accounts on Twitter, many of them anonymous, promoting ridiculous conspiracy theories that then diverts our attention away from the real issue of leftist terrorists that want every single one of us on this discussion murdered and would celebrate it without a second of hesitation.
You know, just real quick, these the basically the people that are on that list. Do the names not all seem like they got wildly popular during 2020 when nobody else could say anything? They seem to be allowed to say whatever they wanted.
Are you talking about on the National Review list?
Yeah, like think about Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, they built a conservative media outlet, put it on to Roku during a time when I couldn't even say that COVID was a cult.
Well, if you go through that list, I could tell you right now if any one of those guys or gals was ever censored online. I could tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's like,
and from the names that you mentioned before, and I know there's more names on that list, but for names that you mentioned, not a single one of those individuals was ever censored online. So to answer your question, no, they were allowed to operate when we were censored.
Yeah, more
exactly.
Mark Halperin, Bill Kristol, who now runs the Bulwark, again trying to replace MAGA with just old neocon politics. Eric Erickson, same type of guy. Like these are the people, they want to pretend to be MAGA from the old establishment. And to me, it's just galling. Like everybody knows the people that were there, the OG MAGA stars 2016. And it's like they did everything they could to knock off Gavin McInnes, Alex Jones, Stefan Molyneux, Owen Shroyer, Laura Loomer. Like Laura Loomer had to chain herself to the Twitter building to try and get attention for her Twitter account being banned. I'm considering doing that, by the way. Should I go to the?
You know what? Maybe. Why don't you could actually? Oh my gosh! What if you put on a blonde wig and did it? I'm sorry. It's just, I couldn't help it. It made me laugh. You know, it's funny because you bring up Loomer. And Loomer and I are vehemently opposed on foreign policy right now, vehemently opposed on what the Trump administration is doing in foreign policy. But yet Loomer has never attacked me like illegitimately, like some of these other voices. Loomer has never called for me to be censored. Loomer has never tried to gatekeep me out of anything because she was there in 2016. She understands it. She's not running from a debate. We vehemently oppose each other on foreign policy, but she's never tried to gatekeep me out of anything. So that's the difference. That's the difference between the names that you mentioned, the people that have been through it, the people that have been censored, the people that have been attacked, the people that were there on the ground in 2015. We're able to have these disagreements, but still move the ball forward in a better direction where you feel like the new people that are trying to take over MAGA, and maybe they successfully have, and are gatekeeping it now, they're not interested. They're not interested in moving the ball forward. They seem to be interested in keeping the ball where it is, because that's where they feel the most comfortable.
That was my biggest issue with Pam Bondi getting the AG spot. Like, I was super excited when Matt Gaetz was announced as the AG. And then when it was announced, oh, he's not going to be AG, it felt a little bit like when General Flynn was fired by Mike Pence. It's like the old establishment taking power from the new players. And Pam Bondi, was she ever MAGA? No, she was a old politics, Florida AG, do nothing. And I have the biggest issue. The thing Lewis was saying earlier, like we had all of the mandate of heaven to go and prosecute every single leftist that was saying shoot right-wingers, shoot conservatives, shoot Christians, shoot white men, and specifically naming like shoot Matt Walsh or shoot even I think Hassan Piker or Destiny, one of these guys specifically said to shoot Charlie Kirk. And all of those people should have been locked up. That's incitement to violence. Straight up incitement to violence when you're telling people go and shoot right-wingers. And even, I know you were swatted, Owen, Chase Geyser, a bunch of different people have been swatted, and I still have yet to see a single arrest for any of that. And it makes me insane that Pam Bondi, she goes on Fox News every day. She's supposed to be the general of lawfare in the country. She's running lawfare for MAGA, but she doesn't get.
I mean, honestly, it seems like Harmeet Dillon is running circles around Bondi.
Yeah. Harmeet Dillon is doing a pretty good job. And whatever rope that Jeanine Pirro has right now, she seems to be doing a pretty good job lassoing some of the DC criminals too. I don't know if you guys saw, there was a cabinet meeting today. The Trump administration had a cabinet meeting. Most of them were there. I think Rubio might have been the only one absent. He was visiting with Netanyahu today. And Bondi was in there. And she just, at this point, she is so out of place. At this point, she just looks so out of place. She looks so out of her league. Trump put a couple of the cabinet members on the spot today when the media was asking questions. He threw a couple of the cabinet members on the spot, and they had to step up. And Hegseth was one example who did a great job. And when he threw it to Bondi, man, I mean, she's like a deer in the headlights. She just seems totally out of her league. She seems totally out of her element. She kind of embarrassed herself multiple times in the answers that she gave to President Trump, or the non-answers, I guess you might say. I don't know how much longer we can tolerate Pam Bondi being the attorney general. I mean, I don't know why Trump hasn't moved on yet. My guess is that he doesn't want the press. He doesn't want the headlines. He just doesn't want to deal with the mess of it right now. But she's really we're getting into the point where Bondi is becoming a liability. And I think we're reaching the point now where it's like, if we're going to properly deal with this radical left-wing terror element, then we have to replace Pam Bondi. I don't see there's any other option at this point. She's either going to have to do something drastic, or she just has to go, and we have to bring in somebody that's ready to deal with this stuff.
You're absolutely right. It's like if you imagine that we're in some kind of war, and then Trump calls up the head of the army. He goes, "Are the tanks ready?" He goes, "Yeah, the tanks are ready." He calls up the Navy. "Are the submarines in the sea?" "The submarines in the sea." Calls up Pam Bondi at the Air Force. "Are the planes in the air?" "What do you mean the planes? We have to fuel them. There's a war. There's a battle." She's lost. And this is ultimately, I feel like a lot of the problems we just talked about in the digital ecosystem is so many people on our side are not waking up to where we are, what the left did for the last 5 years, what they did for the last 15 years, what they are trying to do moving forward, and how many of their terrorist cells they have mobilized across the U.S. and are waiting for their opportunity to cause an actual event.
That brings me to something I don't know if you want to get into, Lewis, but you have a very incredible story about the left some other time, maybe. These people go after people in the sickest ways. Like, they go after people to destroy them. And honestly, like, thousands of arrests for incitement to violence is mild for what these people deserve. Like, every Reddit, Blue Sky, and Twitter.
Well, I think you're talking about something a little bit different, because you're talking more about the general people. And while there might be a case for incitement to violence on some of it, I'm more focused on, if the nation goes through, getting the people that are actually willing to go and commit violence. And we've seen hundreds of thousands of people publicly celebrate and exhibit their bloodlust for American patriots.
Very true.
Maybe that should tell us that, like, it's time for, like at some point in time, we either need to accept the fact that people are going to have to coexist, as Owen's been talking about. Like, you can coexist with people that you have a difference of opinion with, as long as there's some common ground, right? Common ground. We all want freedom. I can exist with that just about anybody. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what the fuck you want to be called. Leave me the fuck alone, and I'm good with you. I don't give a shit, right? But when people are celebrating death, like, what would they do to somebody like me? Like, what would they do to you? Charlie Kirk was fucking, like,
one is dead.
The volume was at like 2. Like, I scream at a 10 every fucking day. Like, if they're gonna kill him and celebrate it, they're definitely gonna want me dead.
I mean, I know for a fact that Andrew, Owen, and I have all received death threats. Like,
man, I've received thousands of death threats over the course of these years. Like,
yeah, I didn't want to speak for you.
There's literally a documentary about the fat acceptance community threatening my life and trying to cancel me. It's called The Dark Side of Fat Acceptance.
That's the thing about, like, being suspended on Twitter and, like, what they got me for. Like, they got me for a mean comment, and literally Grok is now saying that, oh, he wrote her abusive comments, and Grok even said, like it had the potential to cause harm. That's what Grok is now saying about my suspension. But I was literally threatened with death by this guy. Said, "I'm going to kill you or the next Jew I see with a knife." And I reported that comment. And the moderation, literally, they emailed me back. There's nothing wrong with that comment. It's fine.
Well, there's a new president now. I mean, that person, according to the Attorney General of Florida should probably be arrested. They set a new precedent now in Florida because of the Loomer, Hammer, and Dillon case, where a death threat was made to them, an anonymous death threat. They actually got the guy and arrested him. But, let me be more specific to what you were just talking about, Alan. I have no doubt today. I have no doubt if I wanted to tonight, there's an individual next. I've never met him personally. We've talked privately and we've done a public debate or maybe two, named Ayal Yacobi. And he's a big voice for Jewish activism, stood up against the pro-Palestinian protesters and everything else, and got a lot of notoriety. I think he's pretty well connected in the political Jewish community. And he goes really hard on me on X. He goes really hard on me on X. But you know what? I have no doubt if I went out with Ayal tonight to have a steak dinner, that we would get along just fine. And we might be passionately opposed on certain issues, but I have no doubt that he and I would be able to break bread and get along, just like Laura Loomer and I would be able to get along despite having passionate differences on foreign policy. And so there's a difference between a healthy debate and a passionate, heated discussion versus this new bot farm, troll army, anonymous accounts that pop up here and really don't help anybody. And I think that there's a lot of different types of subversion happening here. And what I think is going on is you have accounts that are posing as one thing, but they're meant to send you in a different direction. Like I see these accounts that get these massive followings. Nobody knows who they are, but these anonymous accounts, they get these massive followings and they have an Israel flag in their name. And then they go on there and they pretend like they're the most hardcore Zionists and the most hardcore Israel supporters. But I think they intentionally take it to a level to derive hatred. I think they intentionally do that. I don't think these people are Jewish. I don't think these people have ever even been to Israel. I think they're just there to promote this infighting and make more people either dislike Israel or dislike Jews. That's what I see going on. And I think it happens in many different directions, quite frankly. I think it happens in many different directions. But that seems to be the hottest contested issue. And so when it comes to get back to Bondi and the left, and Trump actually said this today, and he's right. I don't know if he even realized what he was saying when he said it. But the average person that's out on these left street protests is a nobody. They're a nobody. They probably barely have any control over their own lives, quite frankly. And I don't say that to be mean. Let's just call it what it is. They're probably in some way, shape, or form a low life, and they're struggling in their own way, disenfranchised, whatever. And they're out on the streets, part of this protest for whatever reason. Maybe they believe it, maybe they don't. That does nothing. You could arrest 100,000 of those people, and that might deter the next protest, but it's not going to stop it. The people you have to go after are the founders. The people you have to go after are the funders. The people you have to go after are the organizers. And until you do that, stuff is just going to continue. And when Trump brought that to Bondi today, it was like you were saying, Lewis, she was like, oh, we need gas in the planes? Oh, you mean planes fly in the sky? I didn't know. And Trump kind of like he pivoted off her real fast because he realized, gosh, she has nothing today.
And that was the thing that stuck in my head when he picked her. It's like, if you look at all of the people that he put up for the various positions in the cabinet, the constant through line is that these are people that are excellent on camera, great at delivering a message in an interview. And then there's Bondi.
She's kind of cute, though.
I'll give you that.
She's got some blonde hair, some blue eyes. You know, she's not. She's got.
Who picked the backups? No, but who picked the backups? Because that's who he should worry about. Like, he wanted Matt Gaetz. Well, who picked the backup? Like when because Matt Gaetz would have. I think we would kind of agree that there'd be some people at least been arrested and in jail.
He would have done way better than Pam Bondi. It's not.
Yeah, and we would very likely have the Epstein list, which Pam Bondi now says doesn't really exist.
Yeah,
like that should be enough for us. Like for the people, for we the people, that should be enough for us. Like, you guys ran on a promise of releasing this list. If you say there's nothing to it, release all the fucking files. You know, but instead we're letting people play in our face. You know,
that whole rollout has to be the most incompetent thing to come out of the Trump administration, and that's directed by Pam Bondi. She's got these people out there holding binders, making fools of themselves. And like, some of the people doing that, like, she actually had some of the best people from 2016, even holding up these binders like they got something special, only to make a fool out of themselves. That was incredibly damaging. Pam Bondi could have been fired for that alone. It's incredible that she hasn't been fired.
I mean, honestly,
or it was on purpose. You know,
No,
like
I think Bondi thought she was doing a good publicity stunt, and it just blew up in her face. And I can tell you that was all her. That was all her idea. She didn't even clear it with anybody. She did it all by herself. She didn't clear it with anybody. And when the rest of the administration found out, because they bring in social media influencers and they do these events and they bring them in and they kind of court them a little bit. Nobody knew that she was going to do that except her. And so when she did it, the other cabinet members that were there were kind of like, what the hell is going on here? And it kind of just, the rest is history.
I want to touch on a couple of the things you said, Owen. When you're talking about these people posing, there's this one account, he's got an Israeli flag in his bio. His name is like Vivid or something.
Yeah.
And he's an Indian.
Vivid prowess.
Yeah, he's an Indian from India. And there's
Do
another one.
That? Do we know that for a fact?
So I have a group chat with like 30 different Jewish people. Some of them are in Israel, some of them are here. They're all younger. We're all like under the age of 30. And we go back and forth debating whether or not this guy's Indian. There's like all these accounts that give Jews like a terrible name. A lot of them are anonymous. And then at the same time, you have other accounts that make the most cartoonish criticisms of Israel to the point that when Owen wants to have a discussion, he's going to get called like a demon by some preacher or something. And it's all done to make it so that real Americans can't discuss real solutions to real problems.
They want us hyper-focused on the Middle East. Like I was going to say to Owen, that I'm pretty sure that Vivid account is Indian. I thought I saw like confirmation for a fact that it is, but I wouldn't testify to it.
I would bet that it's not an American or an Israeli. I'd say it's a pretty safe bet that it's neither of those.
I'm pretty sure I've seen confirmation it's Indian. And then on the other side, you've got Red Eagle Media or Red Eagle Politics, and it's a Pakistani. You got Adam E. Media commenting on America all the time. He's literally Pakistani. So I want these foreigners out of our conversation. I don't want them talking. This is what America needs to do, influencing America. They have no interest in
there was even this Jewish guy living in the UK with like a name like Khalid Muhammad or something that tweeted out, "Dear Jews, please start praying that J.D. Vance never becomes president of the United States." And I quoted him. I was like, "Hey, dear Americans, don't listen to the lamentations of British foreigners. Like, this is insane." To these people, America and American politics is the top TV reality program that you can find anywhere. And for a lot of the rich people in different countries that are bored, they see the idea of fucking with the American political environment as a hobby, as an entertaining thing to do.
I remember when the biggest thing people were pissed about was like Ian Miles Chong is a Malaysian. He's never been to America. He's never stepped foot in America. He's only ever lived in Malaysia. And like he's getting in our politics and telling us what to do. And all of MAGA used to be like, fuck out of here, Ian Miles Chong. You're not American. Shut the hell up. But now it's like there's dozens of these accounts infiltrating it. It's just crazy that this is the environment.
The difference. This is the key difference. I know Ian Miles Chong is Malaysian and based out of a foreign country. I know that. I know who he is, and I know where he's from. So I have ample more respect, and I will hear from that person 100 times before some anonymous account that I have no idea who it is. I have no idea where it's from. If you're not willing, and I'm not going to take some stand against anonymous accounts. I understand why they exist, and I'm not going to make a big fuss about anonymous accounts, right? We all understand why they exist. But when you kind of enter this realm of I'm the agitator, or you enter this realm where I'm going to pick a side of the political propaganda to start spewing, now all of a sudden it's like, okay, if I don't know who you are or where you're from, I probably shouldn't be taking any stake out of what you're saying. I probably shouldn't be investing any emotion with what you're saying, because it's highly likely that you're here either to intentionally agitate me or you're part of a paid for propaganda campaign. Which is either an individual taking money, or now we see these SIM card farms. They just busted one in Europe. There was a huge one in the EU that they just busted. And you've probably seen it before. It's like this wall of phones, and then they have like stacks of these SIM cards, and they can just send out data.
Cards, Owen, because when we were all getting banned in 2020 during COVID, I used to go to Walmart and buy the dollar SIM card so I could make new Twitter accounts to tweet out like, "Don't take the vaccine, burn your mask." And now they're doing it at an industrial scale to confuse Americans.
Yeah.
No, they're going to throw another. But they just classified another like 20% of people as obese medically. Like they recently just did that. Like, and the way they did that is I've said,
you know that the West Virginia is the most obese state at 40%. Well, I think they said it's over 40% now. That is outrageous.
Dude, I hate fat people.
Dude, they're going by waist circumference now too. So it's like 70% American obesity, and people think that like, well, we knew that. All that does is make it so we're going to spend $7 trillion on healthcare next year. I guarantee it.
Well, we already spend the most on healthcare. We already spend the most on healthcare. We have the most. You could argue we have the most unhealthy population in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And they want it that way. And notice how that's my thing with where I'm really skeptical of this administration now. We ran on a promise of no more pharmaceutical ads. Ozempic still every other thing. That one thing, that one hingent thing right there, literally frees us, like society, because it takes away all narrative control. When 75% of the mainstream media and social media ad benefits are from pharmaceutical industry, it's not. They don't think they're selling these drugs. They already have drug dealers to do that. They're called doctors. You know, like they are buying control of the narrative, so nobody will speak out against them or any of their political affiliates because of it. That's why the mainstream media.
It's actually even worse than that. It's actually worse than that. And the only reason I know this is because I did time in the Fed. There are doctors that are in prison because they stood up against the big pharmaceutical industries. There are doctors that are in prison right now because they refuse to prescribe pharmaceutical drugs, or some of them will try to, because they have to deal with insurance and they have to deal with, the medical mandates in these hospitals and stuff. And so, they'll sign a fake prescription card, or they'll say, hey, insurance is telling you to take this drug, but you really shouldn't. So, and they get hit with insurance fraud, or they get hit with medical fraud, or they get hit with some other thing. There are doctors sitting in prison because they stood up against the big pharmaceutical industry. In fact, there was one doctor in particular whose case, and he was a Chinese American, and his case made it to the Supreme Court, and they won. And he had 7 other defendants. I believe he had 7 other defendants, and they won, and they still wouldn't release him. He literally won his case. And this case was dropped at the Supreme Court, and they wouldn't release him from prison. Now that was mostly because the system is it's such a nightmare. I mean, it's more of a bureaucratic processing mess. Why he couldn't get released more than anything else. But the point is, they won. He was illegitimately targeted and prosecuted, and they won, and he still couldn't even get out. I was stunned talking to these doctors because when you get in there and people find out you have a podcast, everybody wants you to hear their story, right? Everybody wants you to So, but I heard some crazy stories about the doctors and other people that stood up against the big pharmaceutical companies too. One who ended up being a great friend of mine, hopefully he'll be out soon, named Billy Taylor. He actually used to be a big poker player, but he started to get involved in some of the stuff during COVID, and he was kind of involved in some mask and emergency protection stuff distribution. But he was against the mandates, and he was calling out the same stuff that we called out. And so they hit him with basically saying that he was taking advantage of the system and up pricing for masks and shit. And he was like, dude, I didn't do any of that. He was like, I literally didn't do any of that. They booked me because I stood against the COVID tyranny.
Wow.
And so I heard all kinds of crazy stories like that.
The story I'm hearing now is that RFK Jr. is getting blocked by other people in the Trump administration. Susie Wiles and some other people are blocking RFK Jr. from fully doing everything that he said he was going to do. And that brings me to something I was thinking earlier. You mentioned Pete Hegseth, Owen. 2028, it's really around the corner. Is there anybody you like? Some people are talking already RFK Jr. for president 2028. I like Pete Hegseth a lot. What do you see for 2028? Who do you think is a good candidate?
This is going to sound crazy to most people on the Republican side right now. But believe me when I tell you this, at least at the current path, at the current pace and the current path that we're on, there will not be anybody from the Trump administration that will be electable. Nobody.
Wow.
Not even J.D. Vance, not even Pete Hegseth. And I like both of them. I like J.D. Vance. I like Pete. But unless there is a drastic change in this administration as far as policy and execution is concerned, there won't be anybody from this administration that is electable. And quite frankly, Trump doesn't care because he's not running again. So that's not really going to matter.
What do you think of the issues that would sink anybody connected to Trump?
I don't even think it matters. I don't even think it's an issue thing. I think it's the fact that we're not going to get the Epstein list. We're not going to get deep state arrests.
Well, how can we say that?
Foreign policy hasn't really been that great.
Indicted and Comey indicted and Letitia James indicted. How can we say that we're not getting any deep state arrests?
Well, they haven't been arrested yet. Have you seen any of them in cuffs? Have you seen any mugshots?
Well, that's the process they
And
turn themselves in for.
I guess
I'm curious, Owen, what are your top 3 priorities for Trump to accomplish this term?
He has to stop foreign aid. He has to. Foreign aid has to be brought to $0. It just has to be brought to $0. The American economy is not good. And that's one of my biggest pet peeves is they keep saying, oh, the American economy is great. The American economy is great. It's not. It's not great. People can barely afford a house. They can barely afford their bills. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. Debt is at an all-time high. The national debt just reached an all-time high. The economy is not great. It is not. And the U.S. government has plenty of money. Apparently, somehow, the U.S. government has plenty of money. They can spend it wherever the hell they want, but they seem to spend it everywhere else but here. So you have to bring foreign aid down to $0. Now, the big secret. This is the big secret, and nobody in D.C. wants to say it because they'd have to admit how corrupt the whole system is. The big secret is that foreign aid is nothing more than a leverage point. That's all it is. We buy countries off with foreign aid. It's not about helping poor people. It's not about bringing Central America out of socialist hellholes. It has nothing to do with that. All we do is buy people off for foreign policy with foreign aid, and it doesn't really benefit the United States of America. Now, they might claim it does, but really it just benefits the military-industrial complex. It benefits now what is being brought in now with the whole surveillance AI technotronic grid. So to me, it's just nothing more than corruption. It's just nothing more than corruption. And that's why I just look at it. Most people vote on the economy, and 60% of Americans say the economy is going the wrong direction. And so that's why I just say, as much as we might like Vance or Hegseth or anybody else with President Trump, if this administration, and it has plenty of time, we're still in the first quarter. I mean, let's just be honest. We're still in the first quarter. There's plenty of things that could happen. And maybe Comey will get arrested, and maybe James will get arrested, and maybe there will be deep state arrest. But at this pace, it's not happening. 60% say the economy is going the wrong direction. And it's going to be I think it's going to be a similar phenomenon that we saw in 2016, where the reason why Trump won is because he was the anti-establishment vote. And I also argue that the Middle East is one of the most unspoken big issues when it comes to presidential elections, because I would argue that I would argue since 2008, every election has been decided on the Middle East outside of Joe Biden, because they stole that, so that doesn't really count. Obama won because he stood against Bush's wars. That's why Obama won. That's why he beat Hillary Clinton, because he was vocally against the wars in the Middle East. Same thing with Trump in 2015 and 2016. He was vocally against the wars in the Middle East. So I would argue that issue has actually gotten the last 2 presidents, Obama and Trump, elected. So I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happens again in 2028. Wouldn't surprise me one bit.
What type of candidate do you think would emerge then as someone that could win in 2028? You think that someone that's anti-war, someone maybe, do you think Thomas Massey has a chance to win? Who do you think is going to emerge as a candidate?
I think right now, I don't know if you could even say, I don't even know if you could say. I think it'll probably be a name that nobody even is thinking. It's not even on anybody's radar. I would say Massey is definitely one that could rise up. Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, she's there, but she might be a little too toxic. She kind of plays to her local district more so than the national game. And so I don't know if she would ever be. I don't know if she could ever reach that precipice of a presidential election because the dogs would be out on her. But that also tends to help you. So that's kind of just a paradox. But no, I think Massey would get support from the left and the right, and that's what it takes to win an election now. Obama got support from the left and the right. Trump got support from the left and the right. So it kind of takes that coalition on the special issues. I don't know if Tucker Carlson would ever want to run, but he would probably make a lot of noise if he wanted to run. He would draw votes from the left and the right. And the more the people attack you, the more popular you get too. Same thing happened with Trump. So, but I don't think the leading candidate is even, I don't even think we're thinking about who it might be. I think Vivek Ramaswamy probably makes another run at it, and he's a good debater, and I think he's a very honest person, which is endearing to people. He needs to get a better makeup artist. Whoever did his makeup at his last event needs to be fired and maybe taken out back and beaten with a stick. That was just a criminal act they did to him with that face makeup job. And then I think Ron DeSantis too. I do think Ron DeSantis is building his political capital up again in Florida. And really, if DeSantis ends property tax in Florida and then he takes that to a national campaign, that would be very popular. That would be very popular. So I think DeSantis also. But at the end of the day, I think once we get there, I think there's going to be names on the board that we're not even anticipating right now.
Probably right. In 2014, I was thinking it looks like Hillary Clinton's going to run unopposed, basically, and it's going to be the end of America. And then Trump appeared. So probably you're right that we don't even know who all the people are yet. I will say this, just living in Florida now, Ron makes a lot of great promises, and then it doesn't always come to fruition. So I don't know that he's going to have the capital that he would need. He'd have to actually deliver on some of these things.
Yeah, that's why I said if he actually cut the property taxes, then that would become a campaign podium for sure.
He has to deliver to have that cachet.
Well,
for me,
if they try to throw another pandemic, DeSantis will win.
Well, I hope God forbid another pandemic.
Oh, we're getting another pandemic. I just don't.
We're getting one. Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be this decade.
Listen, there's a prayer that we do during the high holidays to prevent any type of catastrophe like that from descending on the earth. So I was really focused on it this year, and every year since the pandemic, we're not getting any more pandemics. I prayed too hard.
But did we even have one though? Did we ever even have one? That's the real question.
That's
good. So your prayers were already answered.
Well, we had a psychological pandemic. That was something.
It's not a conspiracy theorist. We didn't have a pandemic. We really didn't.
But we did have a psychological pandemic because it infected the minds of people.
And
that's still something.
I agree. But I mean, the virus arrived in late September, early October of 2019, and it went unchecked for 5 months. The first wave was actually over. It was just another cold season. It's really all it was.
Actually, I got COVID in January of 2020. I think somebody gave it to me in when I was in the DC jail because I came out of there sick as a dog. I've never been that sick. So I could understand if you actually got whatever it was going around. It was probably just some flu. Maybe it was hopped up in a lab and made worse. Yeah. I don't know all the facts about it. But I would understand if you got that for the first time and you saw on TV that it was killing people, that you would panic and think you're going to die.
Absolutely.
I don't get sick. I never get sick. I don't even know if I've been sick since then. So if you were like, oh my gosh, this is going to kill me, I could see you panicking, going to a hospital.
There was also that concerted effort, Owen, on Telegram and in the alternative media, these videos that were supposedly coming out of China of you'd see a crowd and then someone randomly falls and is dead in the supermarket.
And they're in the hazmat suits and spraying
and there were
the chemicals.
Hundreds of these videos out of China before we really even had the CNN case counter on the screen to prime the public for the idea that this would be a black plate situation.
Case counter just says they're just fucking playing in our faces. Counting a case of a fucking cold is stupid as fuck. It's so wild.
So Owen, I did want to ask you before, because I know Alan's got a hard cutoff.
I can go for a little bit longer.
Okay, what are some of the things that Trump has done so far in the second term that have impressed you, that have been good things? Improvements from the first term.
Well, I will never regret voting for Trump because he pardoned the January 6th defendants. Just for that alone, and released innocent men from prison. Just for that alone, I will never regret voting for Trump. Now, there are still some rights that need to be wronged at a very low level, with some of the veterans that haven't had their benefits restored yet. So there are still some rights that can be wronged there, but they did get out of prison. So I'll never regret voting for Trump. And plus, he won in 2020, so he deserves his second term anyway. Whether or not I think that this administration gets an A or an F, he already won it again. So he gets his second term. He deserves it. So pardoning the J6 defendants, releasing the innocent men from prison, that's A+. That right there alone is worth it for me to vote for Trump. There's no doubt what he's done at the border has been a massive success. I tend to I get a little bittersweet about this, because really it's like I shouldn't even be celebrating it. It's like I shouldn't be celebrating the fact that we have a secure border. That should be a given. Right. I shouldn't be sitting here and being like, oh wow, thank God we finally have basic national security. It's like, duh, why wouldn't we? But to his credit, he did it. Border crossings are virtually down to nothing. And despite all the interference and everything, I do think they're doing a good job deporting the violent illegal aliens, the criminal ones. And it's been messy. It's not been perfect, so there's going to be room for error, and there's going to be room for mistakes and criticism. But overall, if there's anywhere where they're doing a good job, I do think it's at the border, certainly. And then they're at least trying with the deportations. It's been a little messy and nothing is perfect. But at least there's something there. We can point to something. We can point that there is action. I don't like Trump's priorities. I think that my big beef is I don't like Trump's priorities. However, I do have to acknowledge his effort and his desire to bring peace. I do think that comes from a genuine place. Quite frankly, I don't care if the rest of the world wants to kill themselves and kill everybody else. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't think we need anything to do with it. And I don't like that being a priority, but he is trying to get it done. I do think he's trying to stop these wars. I do think that comes from a genuine place, and I think he is trying in a good faith effort to do it. Whether he ends up being successful or not, that we'll end up seeing. But I do think that you have to admire at least that, whether or not you agree with it being a priority. Putting RFK Jr. in charge was a big move. And even that hasn't really gone all the way. Alan, you mentioned some of the things that they said would be happening that didn't happen. So even though that hasn't really gone all the way, just putting RFK Jr. up there, I think was a strong move. Putting Tulsi Gabbard in there, I think that was a strong move too. So that kind of shows that, hey, I'm going to let some of these establishment voices be a part of this too. And they're going to get access to me no matter what. So I would say if I could point to three things, some of the cabinet selections have been strong. The execution at the border has been strong. And I think he genuinely does want to end these wars. Whether he can or not, I don't know. Whether it should be a priority or not, I say no. But I can't knock a guy for trying. I can't knock a guy for trying to stop wars. You have to at least acknowledge and admire that.
The thing that I'm focused on most politically, and the goal that I want, that I think solves so many issues, is just mass deportations. And both all of the tens of millions of illegals that Biden let in, and I want to see the H-1Bs gone, all of the people taking American jobs. Trump's talking about making it more expensive for them to come here in the first place. So that's something. But I think you see more jobs for Americans with the more deportations you get. You see the prices of the housing market come down the more that you get deportations. And, you were floating Massey as a candidate. My concern with him is that it seems like he always stands against building the border wall, things like that at a critical juncture. So I hear what you're saying. You're exactly right that the candidate that was against war, and I remember Obama did get a lot of support because he had an anti-war stance. Like, there is a massive, massive support for that on both sides of the aisles. But I think a lot of people have been tuned into the fact that deportations and mass deportations will fix a lot of the other issues that you were talking about, the job market, housing, prices, like that stuff. It all is like a domino effect. And Trump is doing way better than any past president in the last decades on those issues. And I think that will be a major issue in 2028. Who is going to ramp up deportations? Like, not who's going to continue it, who's going to ramp it up.
Yeah. And I think too, when you talk about the simplest solution to a complex problem, you say, okay, deportations, that might be a little more of a complex solution, but still it's like, no, the policy is deportations. The policy is you're here illegally, you're getting deported. That's just the simple policy.
Right.
And I would say that another one of those is the welfare policies. You have to end the welfare state. It just has to end. And I would argue that stopping the illegal alien welfare was half of the battle, maybe even more, maybe even the majority of the battle of stopping all the illegals coming in was ending the welfare. Once they know there's no financial benefit, there's no welfare for them, they're not coming in anymore. It's not happening. So just having a good policy can stop that. Now, I'm not against the wall, but I can understand where Massey is coming from saying, hey, maybe we don't need a wall. If we just have good policy and execute strong border security, then maybe a wall is unnecessary. I'm fine with the wall.
Well, if I may, Andrew, I feel like for me, deportations is like it's very important. I would put it in my top 3 priorities. Absolutely. I would say though that the biggest thing, in my opinion, that Trump and his administration needs to accomplish over the remainder of his administration is dismantling the radical left-wing networks, both the funders that allow and finance for the terrorism that we saw in 2020 on the streets, that we're seeing starting to rear its head, as well as the NGOs that facilitate their release and the agitation. It's a complicated, interconnected system of patronage and organizations that have allowed for the left to gain power and dominate to such an extent that they are comfortable openly celebrating targeted assassinations. And they only go in one direction. So in my mind, dismantling and removing the ability of these people to ever touch political power is the overriding concern for the administration. It is literally life and death.
I have the solution that solves both of these problems. We deport George Soros.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think he might do it from like an island or a volcano or a lab or something.
Can we do like a thing where we like earmark his money with like radiation or something, and so we can follow wherever
they were
it goes?
talking about this with the FTO designation for Antifa. It hasn't gone through officially yet as policy at state, but it seems like there are strong indications that they're going to continue to move in that direction. We saw that with the indictment in Texas of the Antifa terror cell that had the July 4th ambush. If they go forward and officially designate them as an FTO, Soros is done for. These other groups, a lot of the right-wing billionaires that are like allegedly on the right wing are very much complicit in these entities, and that gives the lawful authority to do everything on my wish list as far as removing the enemies of America.
Yeah, let it be known, no one dislikes George Soros more than the Jews at the Jewcast. We want him out of here.
The thing is that I agree. I mean, you're basically talking about how the government is corrupt to the core. Like, I think that we just need to get there. And I know I'm a very black pill person, but our government is not savable. Like, picture this. We have all known the USDA food pyramid has been bullshit for decades, right? Like, there's jokes about it. It's in our culture. We know it's a fucking joke. But if that means if it's bought off, paid for, and corrupt, the entire government is. They all know it's bullshit. Like, we have an entire wing of the government that's responsible for health. The CDC, the NIH, the FDA, everything like that.
Like, if I go to a tire shop and I pay off the mechanic an extra $50 so that he puts the premium tires on instead of the regular ones, and he pockets it and the shop loses out, that doesn't mean that the CEO of the tire company is like in bed with the mafia cutting down the rubber trees in South America. Similarly,
how would you not? So the argument is they're ignorant or they're complicit. Either which way, they shouldn't be in charge.
Yeah, there's a lot of corruption.
I mean, what the reality is, like in the last 40 or 50 years, we have went from a country that was healthy as fuck to the sickest country in the world that spends the most money. That is facilitated by the United States government, and people need to start accepting that. The big food couldn't have become big food without big government, and the pharmaceutical industry couldn't have been anything without the government because they're the ones that gave them immunity to a lot of shit. Reality is the government is corrupt to the fucking core, like to the core. We keep changing the figureheads on the main dial and think it's going to change shit. Our government is corrupt to the fucking core. All these people voted on all this shit. All the shit that Doge found, like the $1 million for tiddlywinks and for trans people in fucking Aruba, like all that crazy shit. Like they voted on all this shit. That's how we got all this shit. You know what I mean? Like our government is corrupt as fuck, and we're not going to vote our way out of it.
Well, I'd agree with you if Kamala had won this last election, but I think right now we have like a 3-year opportunity that's rapidly diminishing. And I think we need to capitalize on the moment before we take the black pill.
Well, that's why Pam Bondi needs to go. That's why.
Right. But I thought of it.
But I think it's pretty clear at this point. I don't think Trump has any interest in shrinking the government. I don't really think that's it. I don't think that's in Trump's interest. So I understand where Alan is coming from with that frustration is you get the government out of our lives, you know, and I think maybe there was a misinterpretation when Trump talked about giving the country back to the people. We thought that meant getting the government out of our lives. And I think it turns out it's more of a superficial thing. Like, hey, I'm going to build a ballroom and invite you. You know, hey, I'm gonna bring people into the White House and I'm gonna give you guys more access and more
exactly.
You know, I'm going to get you guys involved more, but we're not actually getting the government out of your life. It may end up being in 3 years, the government is more involved in our life than ever before if they build this AI tech grid. So that could, we'll see where that goes. But I think generally speaking, getting the government out of our lives, and that's why it's like, I'm against the welfare state, you know, cut taxes, whatever just gets the government out of our lives. That's I think the easiest solution to most of these problems. Get government out of our lives, get them out of our transactions. And like what you were saying, Alan, all of these Republicans voted to expand FISA. I think that vote was just 2 years ago. They all voted to expand FISA. They passed that. And now they find out that they were getting spied on and they want to complain. Oh my gosh, I was getting spied on by the Democrats. You voted for this. They legally spied on you because of a bill you voted for. So you can complain all you want. You literally voted for it and it was legal what they did and you made it legal.
So that's another reason that I focus on mass deportations. Indians, for example, they vote 70% Democrat. Like all of the third world that's coming here, they all come here, they vote Democrat. If the Democrats ever get power again, the control grid that you're talking about, they will be as bad as communist China in this country if the Democrats are allowed to take power again. So that's why I always focus on deporting these people, is because we have to have a conversation with Americans in the first place, like people that understand First Amendment, Bill of Rights, Constitution, and not just people coming here because they want to be on the government dole. They want welfare like they get in European countries and like we've been giving them. So like we have to be able to have a conversation with the American people, and it's not possible when the people here, like the New York City election is not being decided by Americans, it's being decided by people that just got there. And the guy that's going to win the race is someone that just got there. So that's why I focus on that all the time. I'm curious, Owen, I got a question for you. The question I wanted to ask you before you came on the show is if you could press a button and deport every Somalian in Minneapolis, would you do it? But the question I'm thinking of now, just talking to you, is like, what conversation? We're being so infiltrated, OG MAGA, all that. Like, what conversation do you think is not being had because so many people are siloed off, where it's like they're focused on this or they're not allowed to say that? And like, what major conversation do you think is not being had in the right wing?
You know, I would say the potential disaster that this AI system that's being built could represent. I think it actually represents a lot of issues aside from just the potential for AI surveillance tyranny. I think it also could potentially be a massive energy sector issue. I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse on this issue. And if we don't start generating new energy, whether it's a nuclear push or something else, we don't have the energy grid to support this. We simply don't. Well, America, where it stands, we don't have the energy grid to support the microchip processing and the microchip manufacturing and all the AI data centers. We simply don't have it. And so you're either going to have a situation where all these processing plants and data centers have their own source of energy, like their own fusion or nuclear core, which could happen. There are some examples of that being successful. But we're not really thinking about that. If they bring in this AI energy grid and then they want to do this whole golden dome, we're basically doubling our energy needs overnight like that. We're doubling it. And yet is anything being addressed to actually support these things that we're trying to build? So I would say that that's probably one. The other issue, I think that, and Trump does talk about this, but he doesn't talk about it enough. And that's the American potential. I don't think Americans really understand how their potential is being squandered. I don't think the average American or even the most informed and politically involved Americans, I don't think they really understand how our potential is being kneecapped right now. And, they tend to look at some of the, they tend to look at some of the industrialization, modernization of the Gulf nation states or Japan, or maybe the better example might be China. And they'll say, oh, the Chinese communists. Well, I don't want to be a communist. I'm not going to vote. I don't want to live in a communist country. By the way, we live in a free market republic. So if you want to be a communist, nobody's stopping you. You can go live in a house with 5 people and you guys can all share incomes right now. You can literally all be communists if you want. Nobody is stopping you from doing that. But the reason why this happens is because America has all these interests all over the world. We have a military budget to fund our 200 bases all around the world. We have our foreign aid budget that's hundreds of billions of dollars. And yet look at our major metropolitan areas. I watched Austin, Texas in 10 years go from it was for like 5 straight years. It was the number one place to live. It was considered the number one place to live in the United States of America. And I used to be able to go downtown and go to the metropolitan area. Barely any crime. It didn't smell like sewage. Not much homelessness. In 10 years, I've now watched Austin go the way of every other major metropolitan area. Crime everywhere, homelessness everywhere, filth everywhere. You hear gunshots now, police sirens now. This all happened in 10 years. And so I just think about, we're watching the rest of the world really lap us. And we're kind of closing our eyes to it and just thinking, hey, because we're American and capitalist and everything else, we're still better than everybody else. It's like, hey, don't let pride get in your way here. Our metropolitan areas, our metropolitan lifestyle is really deteriorating badly right now. And people are ignoring it while other major countries' metropolitan life is actually getting better. And we don't like to talk about this. We don't like to examine this and admit this. But I think it gets back to the message. The delivery system is about potential. We don't have to live like this. I don't have to live in a city where there's massive crime. I don't have to live in a city where there's massive poverty and homelessness and just a stench in the air. Look at New York City. You walk around New York City and it's scaffolding. It's literally scaffolding everywhere. It's bags of trash everywhere. What the hell is that? That's literal garbage on the streets. Why? We don't have to live like this. And to me, it's the American potential. We're not anywhere near reaching our potential, and it's because our politicians have sold us out. And, I guess I would kind of close that argument with this. And there's no mystery where I'm at as far as foreign policy is concerned. But I do think there's a connection missing when we talk about the foreign policy issue and the Israeli influence issue, and obviously the newfound phenomenon of the right wing kind of becoming really anti-Israel. I think that the one thing that the right wing has to at least acknowledge, that I acknowledge, is that Netanyahu is actually the most ethno-nationalist leader on the planet. He's the most far-right leader on planet Earth right now. And if our leaders acted like Netanyahu did, then our country might actually be a lot better off. Now, I don't like Netanyahu. I'm no fan of Netanyahu. I don't like Netanyahu's policies. I don't like his regime. There's no mystery about that. Having said that, Netanyahu cares about Israel. Netanyahu does everything to make sure Israelis are reaching their full potential. Netanyahu has a vision for Israel that he's trying to accomplish right now. Whether I like it or not, doesn't matter. That's what Netanyahu is doing. So it's funny to see kind of the right-wing ethno-nationalists that are really anti-Netanyahu, anti-Israel. Okay, But let's admit it, Netanyahu is the number one right-wing ethno-nationalist on the planet. Maybe Orban, maybe Putin, you could put into that conversation, but nobody's as extreme as Netanyahu. And some of these people on the right would consider themselves extremists now. So I would love to see a leader that actually puts America first and America only and does everything with that vision in mind. I would love to see that. And I just think our system is so corrupted that it might not even be possible. I think Trump might have thought he could do that at some point, and then he got in there and he's just like, it's not even possible. The whole thing is so corrupted and so complex now that it's not even possible for me to actually put America first.
I was just going to ask you, what do you think the solution to that looks like? Because does it look like what Trump's doing in D.C., where he has militarized police coming in there, cleaning up the streets? Because people are saying now that D.C. is the safest it's been in a long time, that you can actually walk around there now. Do you think that is the solution? What solutions, if any, do you see for that?
That's one of those deals where it's like political chemotherapy, right? It's just like, and I'm not promoting that for cancer treatment, but I think people get the point. It's like, I don't want to see the military on the streets. I don't even know if I could ever say that I support that out of principle. But at the same time, I am in a results-based mindset. And if we can't clean up the streets of Chicago, then and the only solution is to send in the military, then it's like, I don't know if I'm going to stand in the way. I might say I don't like it. I might say it's against my ideology and my vision for America. But at the same time, I have to be a results-based thinker. And if nothing else is going to work, then that's something we have to do. But I think really the truth is this. And I think that, again, I think that Trump just kind of realized that, I don't want to do this or I can't do this. But eventually somebody's basically going to have to get in there and basically just pull the plug. They're just going to have to pull the plug. And I see John Thune coming out today, and it's just so pathetic. But John Thune comes out today and he says two things that to me just tell the whole story of where the Republicans are at right now. And he says the Democrats are keeping the government shut down because they're scared of their base. Well, first of all, that's BS, but let's take it at face value. Okay. The Democrats are scared of their base. What did you actually just say? What you just said was that the Republicans don't give a shit about their base. That's what you just said. You said that the Republicans don't give a damn about their base and the Democrats do. That's what you just said. Now, I don't believe that's the case. The Democrats, this is all a political standoff. That's all it is. This whole shutdown. It's a political football game. But if you take Thune at what he says, so the Democrats actually care about their base and the Republicans don't. And I go back in time and I say, who was it that said, it was the founding fathers. It's Thomas Jefferson. When the government fears the people, there's freedom. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. Well, John Thune just basically said we're tyrants. John Thune basically said Republicans are tyrants and Democrats are pro-freedom. Now, again, I don't believe any of that. That's all garbage. But that's what he just said. That's basically what he just said. And then what does he go on to say? Then he goes on to say, the Democrats are responsible for $8 billion in welfare a month not going out. John, I thought we were conservatives. So now you're for supporting the welfare state. So now Republican Senate leadership is about propping up the welfare state. It's utter garbage. It's utter nonsense. And I can't believe Republicans take this messaging. I can't believe, John Thune should be getting emails today like, hey, you son of a bitch, maybe you should fear me politically. We're not violent here, but maybe you should fear me politically. Maybe we'll never vote for you again. Maybe we make sure your legacy is trashed. If you say that you don't care about the base, but the Democrats do, and then you're going to come out as a conservative and say we need to be propping up the welfare state. So this is what I'm talking about. Somebody's just going to have to get in there and just pull the plug. And they're just going to have to say, look, welfare state is going to come crashing down. If you relied on the government for sustenance, I'm sorry, but you made a choice to rely on the government. That was a choice that you made. To all the foreign countries with all the foreign aid, I'm sorry, it's coming to an end. Can't do it anymore. It's over. All these military bases, we're shutting them down. We're bringing every single troop home. If we need to, we'll put them in the borders. If we need to, we'll put them in the downtown areas to clean them up, but they're all coming home. The whole thing has to be pulled the plug, and then we have to reset from a very constitutional, liberty-based mindset. But I think it's such a dangerous game, and I think there's obviously a lot of risks and things that are going to crash when that happens. I just think Trump said it's not going to be me. I'm just not going to be the one to do it.
It does sound like, though, that if you could hit the button and get all the Somalians back to Somalia, you do it.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Only Ilhan, the beautiful Ilhan.
Only Ilhan with her beautiful brother. Or maybe she has 2 cousins. I don't know.
Too funny.
Lewis, I feel like you have a rant stored up in you. Go ahead, man.
I kind of do, because Owen got my juices flowing when he's talking about vision. And as we enter into the 250th year of America, it's really essential that the administration lays out a clear, coherent vision for where America needs to go. And we're starting to see this idea form, and it needs to be fully developed. We need to have clean American cities. The potential for real Americans, as Hulk Hogan said during his beautiful RNC speech, is unparalleled today. What we are seeing right now is a breakthrough in humanity. There has never been a time available for a go-getter to make a difference in the world like there is today. When you see the amount of people on the left or on the right, your neighbors, your cousins, your siblings, whoever, that were wearing the mask, that were taking the vaccine, that were going along with the propaganda for the last decade, for the last 5 years, for the last 6 months, whatever the time frame is that you, the viewer, started waking up to what's going on in our country, you just separated yourself. You just reclaimed your independence. And now America needs to reclaim its independence from the foreign adversaries, from the billionaire class, from the globalists, from the enemies, both foreign and domestic, because there is no country to return to. This is called the Jewcast, and no Jew listening has a safe Israel to go to if America falls to the authoritarian alliance of these Islamic communists and the enemies on the right that want to see a managed decline as we hand off our country to the hordes of the rest of the world. I don't want to live in an America ruled by some menace in Beijing. I don't want to live in a Florida with an Islamic call to prayer playing at 5 a.m. I want America for Americans.
Yeah, I want the 90s demographic back. That's the demographic
a football
shift
spike.
I want.
Lewis just spiked the football in the end zone.
Yeah, he did. He's dancing
A
on it.
Gronk spike.
He's pulling out the
Well, I
shark.
had to. I mean, we had a great
celebration.
stream, and I feel like the conversation went in so many awesome directions. And look, Owen, it's good to see you still in the fight. Great things are ahead. Don't take too many black pills. A new generation.
I know that's
rising
unfair.
up.
People say I'm black-pilled. It's BS. I do real coverage. I get passionate. I call out bad things. I call out good things. I love life. Life is great. God is good. I enjoy every day that I'm above the ground. So, the people that call me a pessimist and a black pill, they just don't know me.
They just don't know you.
Yeah.
If they knew you, they'd call you the white Kyrie Irving.
Well, be careful now, okay? Because, they made Kyrie apologize, all right? So we don't want to go – we don't know if we want to go down that route.
I'm just talking about the layup package and, hell, the anti-vax
Bro,
that makes you the
dude,
white
this might be my last year on the court, man. This might be my – dude, I went out I decided I was going to start playing ball again. I don't know. I kind of lately, now that I'm in my 30s, I just do it whenever the pros are playing. I get out there every night whenever the pros are playing. I'm not in my 20s anymore, so it's hard to go out there and play all night year round. So I usually just do it in the winter when the NBA season is going. So I went out. I played with some of the local high school and college kids this week, and man, they worked me bad.
Oof.
They worked me bad, Andrew. It wasn't a proud moment for me. It was very demeaning, the performance I put on. I'm still limping a little bit. I think I still have a little bit of a gimp. This might be my last year, Andrew. I don't know how much longer I can hoop like this. I think this might be my last run before I fully commit to golf.
It was a few years ago that I learned it's like I can only play in a game where the guys are like high IQ players, because getting fouled at my age, it's like if somebody hits me hard, fouls me hard, I walk it off, play the next play. But if somebody hits me on the shoulder now, like really hard, Like, dude, I'm feeling that shit for a little while. So
yeah, and I'm playing with these high school guys, these college guys. I mean, they're built athletes, and they play hardball. So I'm just like, yeah, it's like, dude, I took a knee, and it was just like, I'm still feeling it, man. I'm like, my God.
Yeah, I'm doing more tennis these days because the green ball doesn't foul you.
Tennis works as long as you're not playing pickleball.
Bro, I've been playing with this dude, a friend of mine.
No.
The last time we went to play, he's like, "What if we try pickleball?" I'm like, "Never. I will never
Let the
play
record
pickleball."
show that no one can say Andrew Meyer is not Jewish. He's playing pickleball with like 70-year-old guys in Florida.
I can already see it.
I will never play pickleball. Tennis. That's the end of the line. Like, okay,
tennis is a respectable sport. Pickleball, until I'm over 60, I will not play pickleball.
Yeah, exactly. That's about the age.
Well, God willing, we'll have another stream in about 40 years, and we'll all play a good round of shuffleboard.
It'll be the year will be what? 2050.
45.
And we'll be on the Jewcast playing pickleball in New York City as Mayor Mamdani is on his 10th straight election.
Oh no. Oh no.
Mayor Mamdani in 2050.
That's so horrifying. But I mean, they've been looting that city. We'll see how much worse it gets with him. The thing that I don't like most of all, it's like the demoralization of Americans and the lifting up of foreigners and foreign ideology. That's the thing that gets me about that. It's like New York has been corrupt. New York has been like bottom of the barrel. But I don't want to see foreigners get a foothold. It's like domestic enemies are bad, obviously bad, but I hate to see an invasion of my country. I don't want this to become Europe. Like they've got Indian mayors and stuff all over the UK. They've got Muslims taking over all these countries. I want 90s demographics. I want whites, blacks, Jews, some Hispanics, some Asians. I don't want these H-1B Indians taking over.
You start to wonder if the 90s were the last great decade. The 90s seemed to be the last decade that had an identity, that had an aura, that kind of separated. Everything else seems to be just this blob. Everything else just is kind of mold together since the 90s.
Oh, and I have a crystal ball off camera, and I'm telling you, 2032, the Zoomer generation finally executes Order 66. The last Democrat has been sent to the penal colony of Greenland, and America is now great.
Say it into the crystal ball.
It's going to happen. Look, the golden age of America waits for no one, whether they like it or not. As long as Louis Shanker's alive, America has a chance.
I have a crystal ball right here. This book is called Generations, and the authors investigated like these patterns in American history, and they said there's 4 types of generations. There's
beautiful that.
Oh, nice. There's basically what the boomers are, that they come along and they ruin things, and then the generation after the boomers, which corresponds to Gen X right now, the Gen X just goes along with things, and then the millennials come along and we fix things. That's you and me, Owen. Our generation fixes things.
The millennial angst, the Generation X angst seems to be more tied up in like kind of superficial rebellion, where the millennial angst seems to be a little more directed. Now, unfortunately, a lot of millennials are liberals, and so that kind of goes both ways. But the millennial angst seems to be a lot more directed, a lot more philosophical, whereas I think the Gen X angst was kind of just like you said, like, oh, well, we're just kind of here and we'll just kind of break some stuff, but it's not really a directional philosophical movement.
Gen X was like rebels without a cause. I call them the absentee generation because they, in large, they don't show up. We had executive power go from the boomers, all boomers, to we have one millennial, J.D. Vance, having an executive level position as the vice president. Entirely skipped the Gen Xers. They're the absentee generation. But as much as millennials, like you say, like it's more liberal right now, the based millennials, the leaders of the millennials, people like you and me and Jack Posobiec, like the millennials are going to make a real push and change things in a way that Gen X didn't. It's happened over and over in U.S. history. Our type of generation that the millennials are, I believe we're called the civics. It's like we have to go to literal and philosophical war on what's going on in society. We win the war and we fix things. This book was written in 1991.
You know, this is a perfect closing point right here, because you said the key word, and that is war. And, you know, thanks to the internet, and I've got a pretty big X account. It's pretty internationally known. I've actually been able to talk to people my age, our age, all over the world. I've been able to talk to people all over the world. I've met people all over the world, and liberals, conservatives, you know, centrist, whatever. But everybody in our generation seems to agree with one thing, that war is an outdated concept. War is no longer necessary. We have so much technology. We have so much access. We can expand humanity to the stars if we want. And so it's time to stop spending human capital and human resources on war. And I think that maybe our generation can be the generation to actually start that trend. Maybe our generation can actually be the generation to stop the trend of these never-ending wars. And I think once you do that, I think the world can heal. You won't see as many refugees. You won't see as much, hatred out of the crib, if you will, trained hatred out of the crib. And so it does seem to me that the younger generations, millennials and younger, whatever philosophical differences we might have, it does seem that we're all anti-war. We think that war is useless in the modern age. And I think it is outdated as a concept. And so I think once we stop spending human capital on war, I think that that's when humanity can finally truly expand and reach whatever potentials that we have that are unrealized.
Blessed are the peacemakers.
And that's why we need to dump Lindsey Graham right there.
Well, also, he's a closeted homosexual. I never want someone that's...
He's closeted? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, he's closeted?
Look,
Dang.
I pray you guys are right about peace. I'd be lying if I didn't say that my gut tells me that that might be true for the millennials. I think the Zoomers and Gen Alpha, God forbid, might be the generation of a return to war. And I'll leave it at that. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Well, I don't want to leave on that note. Owen, give us the last
Lewis.
word. Lewis,
It's been a long day, Owen. I started at like 3:30 this morning. I had a 10-hour day, 2-hour commute home. I had to make it for this interview with you. It's great to see you.
I love it. Yeah, man. It's good to see you too, dude. We should catch up more often.
Yeah, you'll have to come down to Florida, hang out with Andrew, man.
Are you in Florida now too?
Yeah, thank God.
Do you play golf?
No.
Just pickleball?
No. You want to throw on the gloves?
Oh, okay. Are you in a boxing club down there?
Something like that.
All right. That's cool. I'd love to come down there. I don't know if you play golf. Do you play golf?
No, I suck
Just
at
tennis?
it.
I did frisbee golf once. I don't know. I think they probably have that. You know, you love this. They got a place down here in Miami where instead of golf, you drive around on the golf cart with shotguns and they throw out the clay pigeons and you shoot those on the holes.
I like that. I
like that a lot.
I like that a lot. I like shooting skeet with my shotgun. I'm pretty good with that.
And you're running down a golf course with it too.
In the
Even
golf
better.
cart. That's country right there. That's country.
Yeah, that's all. That's good.
Yeah.
Is there moonshine at the end of it at every hole? Because then it's perfect.
That's a good question. I haven't been.
Only on the par fives.
Only on the par fives.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for showing up, dude. We appreciate having you anytime.
Always great to be here. You're all great friends and great Americans.
Thank you. I was going to say,
Thank
give
you
us the
very much.
last word, but I don't know if you could get better than that.
Yeah, why don't you plug your program?
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, the Owen Report. I went independent. It was a rather quiet break from Infowars. Didn't really make much headlines or much noise. Nobody really heard about it, or there was no real kerfuffle or issues there. It was really smooth, really quiet. But no, I launched my own thing. I'm actually on week number 3 now. It's hard to believe. Just getting into form with it now. The Owen Report, 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time weekdays on Rumble, on X, on YouTube. Our archives are on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spotify. And I basically bring the same heat that I did before when I was with Infowars, but I have full creative control. I don't really take any breaks. It's basically just 3 straight hours with no breaks. And it's just been nice to kind of do my own thing, have my own brand, and just not be a network guy anymore. I got a couple other projects that I'll be announcing and launching soon. But it's nice because it allows me to control my schedule a little bit better and spend more time with some of my friends here on the alternative streams.
Well, I know we all look forward to watching it grow, and everyone should go and follow it.
Hell yeah.
Lewis, give yourself an outro, Lewis, and Alan, and I'll take the last word.
Oh, well, look, Owen, when you hit me on when I was a college student, it was my 3rd episode when I was trying an independent podcast, and God has a funny way of having paths cross at certain times. You can follow me on X at Radical Shanker, just a normal American who wants to see our country thrive.
You're a great American patriot, far beyond normal. Alan, go ahead, bro.
Well, I'm Alan Roberts. I'm a former healthcare executive who decided to go into fitness and then realized the country was going to shit. So I talk all the shit I went to online. Join me Monday through Friday, normally about 1 p.m. Eastern time or 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then I often join Andrew Meyer for Jewcast.
Let's go. Do we get any super chats, by the way, to read before we get out of here? No,
We did not.
That's
We were locked into the conversation.
Yeah.
We were big on X, but we did not do well on YouTube.
All good. The book I was describing earlier, just to finish the last book, this book Generations, and you'll like this, Alan. It was written in 91. They go through the generations of American history, like like Gen X, millennials, all the way to the founding of America. But in 91, they said there's going to be a catastrophe in the year 2020. So on the money, but they also said that the millennials will fix things and turn this country around. So me and
Hopefully.
Owen and Jack Posobiec and the base millennials, we're gonna fix this place. So take some white pills, Owen. Thank you for coming on the show, bro. I'd say you could find me on Twitter, but you fucking can't. You can't find me on Twitter. Right now, if you're watching this broadcast, tell Elon Musk, bring me back, because totally unjustified.
You'll be back. I'll make the prediction right now. I'll go a little conservative, but you'll be back before the end of the year. I think you'll probably be back before the end of November, but I'll hedge. I'll say by the end of the year, you're back.
God willing, Mizrach Hashem. We'll end on the Andrew Meyer back on Twitter. Stay tuned for another Jewcast. We got to have you back again sometime, Owen. Lewis Shanker, Alan Roberts, thank you. This is a fucking great show.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.